The unexpected visitors. It was a calm and quiet night on Earth. The stars above twinkled in the vast sky, and the moon shone brightly over the planet's surface. People were going about their business, unaware of the events about to unfold. But in the sky, far above their heads, something strange was happening. Suddenly, the peaceful night was interrupted by a strange light. It wasn't a plane, and it wasn't a star. It was something much bigger. A massive object, shaped like a sleek silver disk, appeared out of nowhere and began to fall through the atmosphere at a terrifying speed. No one knew what it was, and the government immediately scrambled to understand what was happening. Was this an alien ship, a weapon, or something else entirely? As the object hurtled through the air, its descent was violent. It tore through clouds and left behind a trail of smoke, causing panic among people on the ground. The sound of its crashing could be heard miles away. It hit the earth with a deafening crash, shaking the ground beneath it. For a few moments, there was complete silence, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. The military was the first to arrive at the crash site. Helicopters hovered overhead, and soldiers surrounded the area, trying to secure the perimeter. The massive craft had landed in a remote forest, far from any major cities. The government quickly labeled it a national emergency, but no one could explain how this had happened or what the ship was. When the authorities approached the crash site, they were shocked to find something even more incredible. The ship wasn't destroyed. It was badly damaged, but still intact. The metal surface was scorched, and large dents covered the hull, but it wasn't a total wreck. The strange alien technology seemed foreign and advanced. No one had seen anything like it before, but that wasn't the most surprising part. When the soldiers made their way inside the ship, they found that it wasn't empty. The aliens were alive. There were strange beings inside, tall and thin, with glowing eyes and smooth silver skin. They didn't look like anything humans had ever seen before, but one thing was clear: they weren't here to invade. They were hurt. Their ship had crashed, and they were in need of help. At first, the aliens were confused. They had no idea where they were or why they were here. The first thing they did was communicate, not through words, but through thoughts. It was strange and difficult for the humans to understand, but somehow they knew what the aliens were saying. The aliens had come from a faraway planet, but their journey had been a disaster. Their home planet had been destroyed, and they had been running ever since. They were fleeing from something much worse, something far more terrifying. The leader of the alien group, who appeared to be the most injured, sent out thoughts of desperation and fear. They had nowhere to go. Their entire species had been wiped out. They were alone, stranded in a foreign galaxy, with no hope of survival. And now, Earth was the only place left for them to seek refuge. The humans didn't know what to think. The situation was unlike anything they had ever experienced. Alien life had always been a possibility, but it had never been this real, this close. No one knew if these aliens were dangerous or if they could be trusted. The government was quick to debate. Some wanted to make contact and help the aliens, while others saw them as a potential threat to Earth's safety. Could these beings be the start of an alien invasion, or were they simply victims caught in a war beyond their understanding? Meanwhile, the aliens had no time to waste. They needed help, and they needed it fast. The ship had been damaged in the crash, and they couldn't leave Earth until it was repaired. But the ship's technology was so advanced that the humans couldn't begin to understand how it worked. Despite their best efforts, Earth's top scientists had no idea how to fix the ship. It seemed like Earth might be the aliens' last hope. But as the days passed, tension grew. The humans weren't sure whether they should help or whether they should be preparing for an attack. The aliens didn't want to fight. They wanted to survive. But the Earthlings weren't sure what to believe. The first few days were tense and filled with uncertainty. The aliens were kept under tight security, and no one was allowed near them except for a select few officials. The world's governments made it clear that the aliens were not to be trusted, But they also couldn't deny that Earth was now their last refuge. As the first 24 hours passed, strange things began to happen. The aliens seemed to grow weaker, and some of them even began to display signs of illness. The humans were concerned, but they couldn't understand what was happening. Was it Earth's atmosphere? Was it the aliens' technology? Or was there something else at play? By the end of the first day, the world knew one thing for certain. Earth was no longer just a peaceful planet. It was now the home to visitors from the stars. But were they here as refugees, or something much more dangerous? The answer was still unknown, and the suspense grew with each passing moment. The aliens' dilemma. Days passed, but the mystery of the strange visitors deepened. The alien ship, once a sleek and powerful vessel, was now a crippled shell of its former self. The humans had never encountered anything like it before. Their technology was far beyond anything Earth had developed, and every attempt to repair the ship had failed. The crew of aliens, once proud and confident, now seemed vulnerable, their hope fading with each passing hour. The leader of the aliens, who was called Keeler, gathered the human officials and scientists. His appearance, though unlike anything the humans had ever seen, still carried an air of nobility and command. His long, silver skin shimmered faintly under the artificial lights of the makeshift medical center, and his glowing eyes betrayed the exhaustion and fear he felt. His people were on the brink of collapse. Keeler sent a wave of thoughts to the humans, thoughts filled with urgency and desperation. They needed help, desperately. The message wasn't conveyed in words, but the emotion behind it was undeniable. Keeler and his crew were survivors. Their planet had been destroyed in a brutal war. The enemy, a merciless race known as the Zorvans, had wiped out their entire civilization. Their species was on the brink of extinction. The Zorvans weren't like the peaceful explorers humans had imagined. They were ruthless, highly advanced, and bent on conquest. Keeler's people had fought back, but their technology couldn't match the power of the Zorvans. After their homeworld was shattered, Keeler and the remaining survivors had fled into the unknown, seeking refuge on a distant planet. Earth had been their last hope. But now, even Earth wasn't safe. The Zorvans had discovered their escape. They had tracked Keeler's ship to the farthest reaches of space and followed them to Earth, determined to finish what they had started. The alien survivors had only one goal left: to escape the wrath of the Zorvans. Earth was merely a stop on their journey, but it had become a battleground. The humans, who had initially seen the aliens as potential invaders, now found themselves in a moral dilemma. The situation was unlike anything they had prepared for. Should they help these aliens, even if it meant putting Earth in danger? Or should they turn them away and face the wrath of the Zorvans alone? Keeler's thoughts grew more desperate as he shared the details of his people's plight. They had been running for years, fleeing from planet to planet, always one step ahead of the Zorvans, but they could run no longer. Their ship was barely functional, and their resources were dwindling. If the Zorvans arrived, it would be the end of their species, and Earth would be caught in the crossfire. The humans began to understand the gravity of the situation. The aliens were not conquerors. They were victims of a war they could not win. But despite the sympathy they felt, fear still lingered in their hearts. The Zorvans were a threat to all of them, and helping the aliens might make Earth a target. The world's leaders were torn. Some argued that Earth should remain neutral, while others felt that helping the aliens was the only way to prevent a much greater disaster. As the debate raged on, the humans noticed something else. The aliens, despite their technological superiority, were not as advanced in every way as the humans had assumed. They were vulnerable in some areas, particularly to Earth's atmosphere. Many of the alien crew members had fallen ill since their arrival. Their bodies weren't built for Earth's air and gravity, and they were slowly weakening. Keeler, too, showed signs of distress. His once bright eyes were now dull. His posture slumped as if the weight of his people's fate had become too much to bear. He began to confide in the humans more openly, revealing the true nature of the Zorvans' threat. They were not just conquerors, they were hunters. The Zorvans enjoyed the hunt, savoring the capture of weaker species. Keeler's people were their prey, and Earth was the next target. Keller's thoughts became more frantic as he pleaded with the humans for help. His people needed a safe place to rebuild, a place where the Zorvans couldn't reach them. Earth was their last chance. But even as he sent out his message of desperation, the humans couldn't ignore the reality of their situation. The Zorvans would not stop until they had destroyed every last one of Keller's people. The danger was real, and Earth was now a part of this war, whether the humans liked it or not. The tension in the room grew as the world's leaders debated. Some saw the aliens as an opportunity for cooperation, a chance to learn from their advanced technology and knowledge. Others feared that aiding the aliens would invite disaster. The military was on high alert, preparing for the worst. Meanwhile, the Zorvans were still out there, lurking in the dark reaches of space, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Keeler knew that time was running out. The Zorvans were getting closer, and his people were weakening. The humans had a choice to make. Would they extend their hand to the aliens, or would they turn away and face the consequences? As the days passed, the tension reached a breaking point. Keeler's people were on the brink of collapse, and the humans could no longer deny the truth. The aliens were not here to conquer. They were here to survive. But survival would require the cooperation of both species. The question now was, could they trust each other enough to face the coming storm? The real enemy. As the days dragged on, Earth's leaders grew increasingly uneasy. The aliens, though injured and weak, continued to plead for help. They were no longer seen as invaders, but as refugees, victims of a brutal war they could not win. Despite this, the threat of the Zorvans loomed large in the minds of humanity. Could the Earth really afford to take on such a powerful enemy? And what would the Zorvans do if they learned that Earth was sheltering their prey? Keeler's once calm and measured thoughts became more frantic as he explained the true nature of the Zorvans. These creatures, a race of ruthless conquerors and hunters, had wiped out entire planets in their quest for domination. They were not like the aliens Keeler's people had encountered before. The Zorvans thrived on violence. They didn't just invade planets, they hunted their inhabitants like animals, enjoying every moment of the chase. The Zorvans believed that every species existed solely to serve them, and they had no mercy for those who fought back. The humans listened, but the fear was palpable. The Zorvans were coming, and they were closer than ever. There was no way to know exactly how long it would take before the Zorvans reached Earth, but the signs were clear. The Zorvans had an impressive ability to track their prey across vast distances of space. Keeler's ship had been followed for weeks, perhaps even months, and now they had arrived at Earth's doorstep. The situation grew more dire with each passing hour. The humans were faced with a difficult decision. Should they give the aliens what they wanted, shelter and protection, or should they turn them away in hopes that the Zorvans wouldn't discover Earth? It wasn't just about the aliens anymore. The stakes had grown much higher. If the humans helped the aliens, Earth would become a target. If they didn't, the Zorvans would surely destroy Keller's people, and they might not stop there. A sense of urgency gripped the world. Earth's best scientists were now working around the clock with the aliens, trying to understand their technology and find a way to repair their damaged ship. The human military was on high alert, preparing for a possible invasion. The world's leaders began to meet in secret, their debates growing more heated with each passing day. But the Zorvans had already begun their approach, and time was running out. As the humans debated, Keeler knew that the fate of both species hung in the balance. His people couldn't survive much longer. The ship's condition worsened with each passing day, and many of the crew members were too weak to do anything to help. Keeler's people had been pushed to the edge of extinction, and now they were being forced to rely on an alien species they had never met before. It was a desperate hope, but it was all they had left. Then, one evening, Earth's defenses were suddenly triggered. Satellites, radars, and military bases all reported unusual activity in the skies. A fleet of alien ships was approaching. The Zorvans had arrived. The peaceful skies above Earth turned into a battlefield. The humans knew that they had no choice now. They could no longer afford to be neutral. Earth was about to be thrust into a war it had no hope of winning alone. The first Zorvan ships appeared on Earth's radar, just as Keller's ship was being repaired. The humans, realizing that they no longer had time to debate, scrambled to prepare for the worst. Earth's military forces mobilized quickly, positioning their forces to defend the planet. Fighter jets and missile defense systems were put on high alert, but the humans knew that their technology couldn't match the power of the Zorvans. Even if they fought back, there was no guarantee they could win. In a desperate move, Keller offered a solution. The aliens had technology that could help level the playing field. They had advanced weapons, shields, and tactics, but using them would require full cooperation between the two species. The humans would have to trust the aliens completely. There could be no hesitation, no second-guessing. It would be a battle fought not just with weapons, but with their combined will to survive. As the Zorvans approached, the humans and the aliens began working together, their efforts a desperate alliance forged out of necessity. The alien technology was unlike anything the humans had ever seen, but they were able to use it to bolster their defenses. The human military worked side by side with Keller's crew to prepare for the oncoming invasion. But even as they prepared, a wave of doubt washed over many of the humans. Could they really trust the aliens? After all, the Zorvans weren't just enemies of Keller's people. They were a threat to Earth as well. If the aliens betrayed them, humanity would be doomed. The suspicion lingered, but the truth was clear. Earth had no other choice. And then, just as the first Zorvan ships broke through Earth's atmosphere, Keller shared one final piece of information. The Zorvans were not just hunting his people, they were hunting all of them. The Zorvans' goal was not just to destroy Keller's species, but to take control of Earth itself. They were ruthless and would stop at nothing to subjugate the entire planet. The battle for Earth was no longer just a fight for survival, it was a fight for freedom. And every living being on the planet would have to join in. The humans, now fully aware of the gravity of the situation, set aside their doubts. They would stand together, aliens and humans alike, to face the Zorvans. The real enemy had finally arrived, and Earth was no longer just a planet in the universe. It was the battleground for the survival of two species. Trapped on Earth, as the Zorvans entered Earth's atmosphere, the world held its breath. The skies were filled with the dark, looming silhouettes of alien ships, their sleek, menacing forms cutting through the air like shadows. The Earthlings had never seen such advanced technology, and the fear of the unknown gripped everyone. The once calm planet was now a battleground, with both humans and aliens preparing for the worst. The alien forces began their descent, their ships flashing across the sky as they made their way toward Earth's surface. From the ground, the human military was already in motion. Jet fighters zoomed overhead, and missile defense systems launched in a desperate attempt to intercept the incoming ships. The sound of explosions echoed in the distance as the Zorvans retaliated with their advanced weaponry. Nothing the humans had seemed capable of stopping them. The invaders were ruthless, targeting military bases and large cities with precision strikes that left destruction in their wake. But even as the battle raged above, the alien ship that had crash-landed on Earth remained the focal point. It was still grounded, the crew struggling to repair its systems, desperately trying to get the ship functional again. The human engineers, under the guidance of Keller and his people, worked tirelessly to understand the alien technology. But as each hour passed, the repairs seemed less and less likely to succeed. The ship was badly damaged, and without it, the aliens had no way to escape the impending battle. Their fate was now in the hands of Earth. Keller's people were also weakening. Many of the alien crew members had fallen ill from Earth's atmosphere, and their once advanced bodies seemed incapable of adapting to the environment. The gravity, the air, The food. All of it was too different from their home planet. The humans watched in silent concern as the aliens, once proud and powerful, now struggled just to survive. But even in their weakened state, the aliens remained focused on one thing: survival. Keeler had been clear from the beginning. Their only goal was to escape. They were not here to conquer Earth. They had no choice but to rely on the humans now. Without their help, they would be doomed, and Earth would become just another casualty in the war between the Zorvans and Keeler's people. The humans, torn between fear and compassion, now found themselves at a crossroads. The Zorvans had made it clear that Earth was their next target. They had no intention of leaving the planet until they had wiped out the alien survivors, and likely the humans as well. But there was something else that had been weighing heavily on Earth's leaders. Could they trust Keeler and his people? The aliens had been clear about their struggle, but could they truly rely on them in this fight? The distrust lingered in the hearts of many, but the threat of the Zorvans was too real to ignore. As the battle outside intensified, the human military made a difficult decision. They would work with the aliens, despite the uncertainty and risk. If they were going to survive, they would need every advantage they could get. The humans began to form a fragile alliance with Keeler's crew, pooling their resources to build a defense strong enough to withstand the Zorvans. But it wasn't easy. There were those within the human ranks who still didn't trust the aliens, and the tensions between the two groups were clear. The humans had always been solitary defenders of their world, and the idea of sharing their resources with extraterrestrials was a hard pill to swallow. But the alternative, being wiped out by the Zorvans, was far worse. Despite the challenges, the repairs on the alien ship continued. The humans and aliens worked side by side, struggling to bring the alien technology back online. It wasn't easy. The language barrier was a constant struggle, and the technology was so advanced that even Earth's best scientists had trouble understanding it. But every breakthrough, every small success, brought them closer to their goal: escape. Keeler's people had to leave. Their ship needed to be functional again if they had any chance of surviving the Zorvans. But as the Zorvans continued their relentless assault on Earth, time was running out. The human defenses, though bolstered by alien technology, were still no match for the sheer might of the Zorvans. The first wave of Zorvan ships had decimated Earth's outer defenses, and now the full force of the invaders was approaching. The battle was nearing its peak, and the humans and aliens had only one option left: work together or face annihilation. Inside the alien ship, Keeler stood by a damaged control panel, his glowing eyes scanning the data. His people were fading fast, but they were determined to hold on. He had spent his life fighting for survival, but now he was fighting for something greater: the future of both his species and the humans who had helped him. He knew the Zorvans would stop at nothing to destroy them all, but he also knew that they had a chance, if only they could repair the ship in time. Keeler turned to the human engineers, his thoughts full of both gratitude and urgency. They had shown him kindness, but kindness would not win this war. Only strength, strategy, and unity would. The Zorvans were coming, and Earth was now their battleground. The clock was ticking. Outside, the sound of explosions grew louder, the ground shaking beneath the force of the Zorvans' weapons. The humans and aliens had no time left. The battle for survival had begun, and both species were trapped on Earth together. The Zorvans were closing in, and there was only one hope left: the repaired ship. Would it be enough to save them all? The hidden power of Earth. The war for Earth was no longer just a battle between two alien species. It had become a fight for the survival of the planet itself. The Zorvans, relentless in their pursuit of domination, were closing in fast. Their ships hovered in Earth's skies, casting ominous shadows over the planet's cities and military bases. Every passing hour brought Earth closer to devastation, and the situation seemed hopeless. But within the alien ship, there was a glimmer of hope. As Keeler and the humans worked tirelessly to repair the vessel, a surprising discovery was made, something that could change the entire course of the war. The technology they had been attempting to repair wasn't just for travel or defense. It was far more advanced than anyone had realized, holding a secret buried deep within its core. Keeler had always known that his people's ship contained an energy source like no other. It wasn't just a fuel source, it was a weapon. Hidden beneath the ship's hull was an ancient, powerful energy crystal, capable of generating a force so strong it could alter the very fabric of space itself. This crystal had been designed as a failsafe, a last-ditch weapon to ensure the survival of Keller's people in the face of total destruction. But it was a power that could be harnessed only if the ship was fully operational, and the humans had no idea how to activate it. The discovery sent shockwaves through the human team working on the ship. At first, they thought it was just another piece of alien technology they couldn't understand. But after much research and trial, they realized that this crystal could potentially turn the tide of the war. The Zorvans, though advanced in weaponry and tactics, had never encountered anything like this power. The humans and aliens were on the brink of a breakthrough that could save them all. But there was a catch. The crystal's power was volatile. It wasn't something that could be controlled easily, and activating it could have disastrous consequences if they didn't know exactly what they were doing. The energy released could obliterate entire cities, maybe even entire continents. It was too dangerous to use recklessly. The decision to harness it would require careful planning, precision, and a great deal of trust between the humans and the aliens. Keeler's people had always known about the crystal's power, but they had never intended to use it unless absolutely necessary. It was a last resort, a weapon of mass destruction they had hoped they would never need to unleash. But now, with the Zorvans preparing for their final assault on Earth, it was clear that this might be the only way to ensure their survival. The humans were hesitant. The idea of using such a powerful weapon was terrifying, even if it was their only option. But they also understood the magnitude of the situation. If they didn't act now, Earth would fall. The Zorvans had proven time and again that they would stop at nothing to destroy their enemies. The question was not whether they could defeat the Zorvans. It was whether they were willing to risk everything to save Earth. As the humans and aliens gathered in the control room, the tension was palpable. The fate of Earth and the alien species hung in the balance. Keeler stood at the center of the group, his thoughts heavy with the weight of responsibility. He turned to the humans, his glowing eyes filled with both determination and regret. "We cannot survive without this," Keeler said, his voice calm but resolute. "The Zorvans will destroy us all if we do not act. But I warn you, this power is not without its cost. If we use it, we risk everything. It is a power of creation and destruction." The humans exchanged uneasy glances. Some were ready to take the risk, but others hesitated, unsure if they could trust the aliens' judgment. Could they really afford to trust an unknown power, or was there another way? One of the human scientists, Dr. Emily Collins, stepped forward. She had been working alongside the aliens, trying to understand their technology, and she had come to respect Keller's people. After a long pause, she spoke. "We've seen what the Zorvans are capable of," she said, her voice steady. "They won't stop until they've destroyed us. We don't have the luxury of time. If we can control this power, we might have a chance to push them back. It's our only option." Keeler nodded, his expression somber. "Then we have no choice but to try." The humans and aliens began working together, their combined expertise and knowledge merging in a frantic race against time. They had only one chance to harness the power of the crystal and use it against the Zorvans before the enemy ships reached Earth's atmosphere. The pressure was immense, but they pressed on, knowing that this was their last hope. Meanwhile, the Zorvans were not slowing down. They had detected the alien ship's presence and were moving in quickly, determined to destroy it and its occupants. Their fleet was massive, and the humans knew that their current defenses were insufficient. They had only one shot to make the crystal work, and they had to do it before the Zorvans arrived. As the final adjustments were made, the crystal began to hum with energy. Its glow intensified, filling the ship's control room with a blinding light. The alien technology, combined with human ingenuity, had unlocked the crystal's potential. It was ready. With the Zorvans closing in, Killer and the humans activated the crystal's power. The ground trembled as a pulse of energy shot up into the sky, creating a massive shockwave that rippled through space. The Zorvans, unprepared for such an attack, were caught off guard. The shockwave shattered their ship's outer defenses and caused massive damage to their fleet. The humans and aliens watched in awe as the energy from the crystal turned the tide of the battle. But as the crystal unleashed its power, the ship began to shake violently. The energy was too much for the fragile systems to handle. The risk of further destruction was real. The humans and aliens had one choice: to either continue harnessing the crystal's power to fight back, or to shut it down before it was too late. The battle for Earth had just begun. The question now was whether they could survive the consequences of their actions. The battle for survival. The shockwave from the crystal echoed through the atmosphere, and the very Earth trembled as if it were caught in the middle of a cataclysmic event. The Zorvan fleet, now battered and disoriented, struggled to regain control. For the first time in what seemed like forever, Earth had a fighting chance. The energy pulse had done something the humans and aliens didn't think possible. It had destabilized the Zorvan's fleet, crippling their lead ships and causing confusion among their ranks. The Zorvans, usually so confident in their technology and power, had underestimated the resilience of their prey. They had not anticipated such a counterattack, and for a brief moment, it seemed as though Earth and the aliens might actually have a chance to fight back. But the victory was fleeting. Keeler and the humans watched in awe as the Zorvans regrouped, their remaining ships rapidly recalibrating. The damage had been severe, but the Zorvans were far from defeated. They had already begun repairing their fleet's critical systems, and their counterattack was coming. Fast. Prepare yourselves. Killer's voice echoed in the control room, a rare edge of panic creeping into his usually calm demeanor. This isn't over. They will retaliate with everything they have. The humans scrambled to their positions. Military personnel rushed to man Earth's defenses, while the alien crew worked feverishly to harness the power of the crystal and keep it activated. The once vibrant and confident aliens were now a mix of exhaustion and determination. They had used up so much energy on the initial strike that they were struggling to maintain control. The Zorvans, now fully aware of Earth's unexpected power, launched their full-scale assault. Massive warships descended, firing streams of plasma energy that scorched the sky and caused massive explosions upon contact with Earth's surface. The human defenses, bolstered by alien technology, managed to hold for a short while, but the Zorvans' sheer numbers and firepower soon began to overwhelm them. With every blast that hit Earth's surface, entire cities and military bases crumbled, and the cries of battle filled the air. The sky above was filled with fire and smoke, and the once peaceful world now seemed to be a battlefield, with death and destruction painting the planet in shades of red. Inside the alien ship, Keller's crew worked desperately to stabilize the crystal's power. The energy was beginning to take its toll on the ship's systems. The hull of the craft groaned under the immense pressure, and several crew members collapsed, exhausted by the strain of maintaining the power. Keeler stood at the helm, his eyes glowing brighter with determination as he tried to coordinate the final strike. "We cannot let them destroy Earth," Keeler thought fiercely, sending the message to his people and the humans alike. "If we do, it will be the end of everything." Dr. Emily Collins, alongside the alien engineers, worked tirelessly to stabilize the crystal's energy. She was scared of the power they were unleashing, scared of the consequences. But her resolve was unwavering. "We have no choice," she whispered to herself. "We have to do this." The Zorvan's second wave was incoming, and it was clear that Earth's military couldn't hold them off for much longer. The humans, despite their best efforts, were no match for the Zorvan's advanced weapons. The combined forces of Earth's greatest soldiers and the alien technology had slowed the Zorvan's advance, but it wasn't enough. The final battle would come down to the last push. Keylor turned to Dr. Collins with a rare expression of gratitude. Your people have shown us great strength, but now is the time to act. We will either live or die together. Emily nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew the next move was a risk, perhaps the biggest one they had ever taken, but there was no time left to hesitate. Do it, she ordered. Keylor and Emily's team initiated the final sequence to release the crystal's power one last time. The energy began to build, humming loudly throughout the ship, lighting the entire room in an otherworldly glow. The crystal, now glowing with the intensity of 1,000 suns, was on the verge of unleashing its full potential. Activate the pulse, Keylor shouted. The pulse shot up through the sky, faster than the human eye could follow. The very air seemed to crackle with energy. The Zorvans, caught in the middle of their offensive, were hit by the massive shockwave. The pulse ripped through their ships, tearing through their shields, shattering their armor, and scattering their forces like broken toys. The Zorvans' fleet, once so formidable, was now in disarray. Ships crashed into one another, spinning out of control as their weapons went silent. The energy from the crystal had unleashed a cataclysmic wave that disrupted their systems completely. The humans and aliens watched as the Zorvans' fleet slowly disintegrated in the distance, their ships falling like meteors to the surface below. The once unshakable invaders had been broken by the very planet they sought to conquer. Earth, though battered and scarred, stood victorious. But the victory came at a cost. The energy from the crystal had drained the ship's systems beyond repair. The alien ship, though still standing, was on the verge of collapse. The aliens, weakened by the strain of using such power, had no choice but to abandon the ship. Keylor's crew, though they had saved Earth, could no longer stay. We've done it, Keylor said quietly, his voice filled with both relief and sorrow. But this is our final act. We cannot stay here any longer. The Zorvans will not forget this defeat. It's time for us to leave. Dr. Collins nodded, understanding. You'll have to go, but we'll make sure Earth is ready. You've saved us, and we won't forget that. As the alien ship began its final countdown to leave Earth's atmosphere, the humans stood together, united by the battle they had fought and won. The sky above them, once filled with fire and smoke, was now clearing. The stars began to shine once again, a symbol of hope for both humans and aliens alike. Earth was no longer just a planet. It had become a symbol of survival, a testament to the resilience of life in the face of overwhelming odds. The humans and aliens, though now separated, had forged a bond that would last across the stars. For the first time in a long while, Earth's people could breathe a little easier. The war was over, but the memory of the battle would never fade. The fight for survival had shown them all just how far they were willing to go to protect their world, their home. And in the quiet that followed, they knew that no matter what came next, they were ready. A new beginning. The battlefield was quiet now, the once thunderous roar of destruction replaced by an eerie calm. The Zorvans were no more, their fleet shattered, and their forces scattered across the stars. Earth, though battered and scarred, had survived. The cost had been great. Entire cities were reduced to rubble, and many lives were lost. But humanity stood victorious. The war was over. Keylor's alien ship, though badly damaged, had managed to escape the atmosphere, leaving behind the world that had once been a prison for his people. The humans watched as the ship ascended into space, disappearing into the vast unknown. Earth was no longer a battleground. It was a symbol of resilience, of unity, and of the power to survive against all odds. As the ship disappeared from view, the silence of the moment was broken by the voice of General James Harper, the leader of Earth's military forces. "We've won," he said quietly, his face etched with exhaustion and relief. "But the war isn't over for us. We've got to rebuild. We've got to honor the lives we lost today, and make sure this never happens again." The world was still recovering from the shock of the invasion. Despite the victory, The scars of war ran deep. The aliens had left, but the Earth they had saved was forever changed. The humans who had once feared these visitors now looked to the stars with a new understanding. There was more out there than just them. Other species, other civilizations, and dangers beyond imagination. The threat of the Zorvans had passed, but Earth had learned an important lesson. It was not alone in the universe. For Keller's people, the decision to leave Earth had been bittersweet. They had fought alongside humans, forming a bond that transcended species. They had shared their technology, their strength, and their knowledge. The survival of both races had hinged on their cooperation, and that unity had been the key to victory. But now, the time had come for them to continue their journey. They could not stay on Earth, not when their enemies might still be lurking in the darkness of space. Keylor, though relieved to be free of the Zorvans, couldn't shake the sadness that weighed on his heart. He had seen firsthand the resilience of the human race, and the kindness that had been extended to his people. But they could not stay. Earth had become their sanctuary. But the Zorvans would one day return. Keylor knew this, and he knew that the humans would need to be prepared. Earth had to be ready for whatever might come next. But as the alien ship disappeared into the distance, a sense of peace settled over Keylor. His people had survived. They had a chance at a new beginning, a chance to rebuild and find a new home. Earth would always hold a special place in their hearts, a reminder of the day when two species, once strangers, had come together to fight for survival. Back on Earth, the humans were already beginning to rebuild. The devastation was widespread, but the spirit of humanity had proven to be unbreakable. The cities that had been destroyed were slowly being reconstructed, and the people began to heal. They honored the memory of those who had fallen, and they carried the lessons learned from the invasion with them as they moved forward. The world governments, now more united than ever, began to take steps to ensure that Earth was prepared for any future threats. They had learned from their experience, and they knew that they could no longer afford to ignore the possibility of alien forces returning. Earth's defenses were strengthened, but the true strength of the planet now lay in its unity. The people of Earth had faced a crisis unlike any other, and they had emerged stronger for it. Keylor's people, now scattered across the stars, would never forget their time on Earth. They had formed a bond with the humans that could not be broken. And though they would continue their journey, they knew that Earth was not just a distant memory. It was a beacon of hope, a symbol of what could be achieved when different species came together for a common cause. As Keller's ship traveled through the vast emptiness of space, he looked out at the stars, knowing that the universe was vast and full of unknowns. But for the first time in a long while, he felt hope. His people had survived. They had found a place where they were not just victims, but survivors. And though the future was uncertain, they now had the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Back on Earth, the people watched the stars as well. They had survived the invasion, but they had also learned something far more important. They had learned that they were not alone in the universe. The humans had fought alongside the aliens, and in doing so, had become something more. They had become part of a larger cosmic community. The future, though uncertain, now held infinite possibilities. The story of Earth's survival would be told for generations to come, a testament to the power of resilience, unity, and the never-ending fight for survival. And as the years passed, Earth would stand not just as a planet, but as a symbol of what could be achieved when all life, human and alien alike, came together to fight for a common future.